on this computer. C'est parti. On est prêt à commencer. Bonjour, bonjour. Vous avez ouvert vos caméras.
The class is supposed to be in English.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
I got confused. I train more people in English than French, mind you. But I got so many French because Zian Ducatel, your camera is off. That would be fun if it would be on. I have a few names I'm going to call, see if you're here. Roumeissa Beklem, Marcus Alexandre Cadas, Aïda Carabo Tossard, Émilie Dubois, non, oui, elle est là. Samuel Etienne Guez. Si vous êtes là, il faut me le dire. Hein? Hugo Romain Layan, Jonathan Long, Cha Sing Lou, Darine Amanda.
Là.
Oui, tu es là. Où ça? Merci. Super. Nicolas Claude Bernard. Non. Catherine Rojo-Rovard.
Yes, hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Andy Sanchez. Super. Okay. So, c'est non. Ça, c'est non. Ça, c'est non. Ça, c'est non. Et ça. Et ça. Super. Okay. Well, welcome to our third session. Today it will be divided in three parts. I'm going to do a little bit walk over the PowerPoint. We're going to talk about models today. We'll start modeling. We'll talk about von Strompinaer's model. We're going to look at the model in the book. We're going to introduce two different models, I guess, this time. And we'll talk a little bit at the end about Hofstede. So first part will be kind of PowerPoint stuff. Second part will be books and websites information, video, discussion. There's an exercise for us to do in the video, discussion. And then we'll start with the first case studies that we're going to work on. So we're 22, including me, that's 21. That would be 3 teams of 7, more or less, something like this that we'll use for that. I'll explain to you what we're going to do with this. The first part of this case study will start today in the class. I'll put you in the breakout rooms for a while, so you can work there. I'll visit you one at a time, answer your question, or just observe how you're doing, right? Then we'll reconvene at the end. I'll bring you back to the main room. We'll very briefly, no, we're not going to talk about the findings today. Very briefly, I'll explain to you what I expect from you next week to follow this case study. So you're going to have a little homework to do this week, okay? There's only participation points for this. You're there, you participate, you voice your opinion, and you get points. That's it. There's no bad answers. It will be an exercise, a discovery exercise. You'll discover many things with this when we'll reconvene next week, and I'll explain to you what was the real intent and purpose for me to give you that exercise, which will be a little bit different than what I will explain to you on the today. All right, are you with me? Yes? Any questions or something, anguish you want to resolve before we start? Okay, very well. So if you have to read last week and most probably this week. Page 143, 161, style of management, and 191, 211. I'm going to jump today on your book to section 6.1. We'll start page 148. I want to introduce notions, and then we'll model all of this. So hopefully you have your book. Who doesn't have a book?
Sir,
Yes,
is it the online one?
yes,
Understanding. Okay, it's okay.
yes. Now, I understand you only have one screen. I will put the book on the screen. Anybody has two screens to work with? Yeah, Guillaume, Angeli, very good. Excellent, Laurence. Fine. Two screen is useful for your classes. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it's useful. Personally, I use three. It helps me follow better what I'm trying to do with you, right? So two screen is quite useful. Let me put this thing on view full screen. There you go. Okay. Let me share this with you. Screen 3. Here, there. So normally, tell me if I'm right, you see the book on screen, yes? Tell me yes.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, so I don't make mistakes, and I have the beliefs that everything is under control. All right, so today we're going to start to modelize what culture could mean, could be. Now, I mentioned to you last week that models are imperfect, okay? Any type of models, whether it's a mathematical model, whether it's a chemical or physical model, it's imperfect. So don't look at these things as this is the absolute truth, or we have to go by the model in order to do a good job. This is not the point, okay? We have to be able to be a little bit flexible. But in the proposed sections of a model, there's as you see on top, let me get something to write, annotate, draw, and there you go. So if I look at the models of culture, yes, there's a section about time, focusing on time, the perception of time, the understanding of time, and we'll see what it does and how to look at this on very different views. There's another item on public or private space, your own space, sharing, not sharing, something like this. About individualism or collectivism. We'll detail a little bit later. I'm just stating the titles. Being in the action, doing or being. We'll see what it means in different culture. We'll start looking at this and then we'll model it. We'll define that. It also includes if we live in the past, in the present, in the future, in our mind, in our society, in our culture. Society that is in the past will always have in the conversation, yeah, but it used to be, or the elders. Why change? Everything that we've done has been right, something like this. Now, some other cultures will say, well, we can do better next time. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Something like this. Or time, some people are on just the day of the day, with not necessarily foreseeing a future and analyzing it. We'll see. There's no bad points or good points in this. It's interesting to see the different point of views. The relation with power, hierarchy, the the way we work with the boss. Either he's on top and he's telling us what to do and there's nothing to say, or where he works with a consensus. He wants us to agree on something so we can move further. Something like this. We'll have a look at the communication context, being competitive or being cooperative. Competitive being more individualism in ways, right? I want to succeed. Or being more cooperative or collectivism would be something more like our team should be the best, something like this. Okay, let me erase this. Annotate, clear. There you go. Okay, so let's have a look at a few of these items in order to grab these basic concepts. Time is related to the rhythm of nature. Different cultures have different perception of time according to their environment, history, tradition, general practices. Time, therefore, is one of the fundamental in which all culture rests around with activity to resolve. Now we'll have to see what it does to us when we're trying to understand the organization. So if I go further, and I'm not going to read everything in detail today. Normally you should have read this. So it's a recap for those who have read. It's a first dip in for those who didn't read and want to catch up. So there are a few, two major attitudes in time, being monochronic culture, one thing at a time, or polychronic culture, many things together. And we'll see in these graphs, one after the other, what effect it could have on the perception of organization towards planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. You see, it's kind of detailed, and it will give us some insights on differences that could appear that we'll discover along with Ofsted entrepreneur models, okay? Because they have modelized these things. So the planning in monochronic culture, a focus of activity is more on the task itself and making schedule compared to a polychronic culture, which is activity is more relationship when planning. If you, there's a definition higher up, I believe, on monochronic and polychronic. I have that somewhere. All right, so organizing, the approach used the structure here. Let me annotate again so you can see where I'm at when I say something. Draw, maybe change color so you see it better. And I was here, yes. On the topic of organizing, the approach used is structure, linear, and task focus. A polychronic culture would be more organic type of way of organizing things. We'll see what it means a little bit later on. Organic or holistic in nature. It's more people focused than having a timeline defined. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or first month, second month, third month, or first year, second year, third year. Staffing. Concerns are focused on shorter terms, meeting immediate needs and requirements in a monochronic culture. Don't feel confused now, okay? I'm introducing a few items. We'll clear it up as we move along. Shorter term, meeting immediate. You arrive at work on Monday, usually in different organization. Monday morning, there's a meeting. This is what we're going to do today and this week, something like this. In a polychronic culture, we'll have something that will be scheduled on a longer period of term. What are we going to do for the following months? Maybe the quarter, maybe the semester, something like this. And it permits maybe for the staffing to be able to organize itself a series of task activities, whether it's work related or not. Where, just one second. I had a dog that needed to go out. Sorry. That's the thing about working from home. So if I plan if I work with my staffing on a longer period of time, maybe I'll organize different type of activities in which they can relate. Maybe a weekend know each other, maybe Friday cultural lunch on top of my work. Now, if I have people that comes in and goes on a daily basis, like in the whole age home here, where they use agencies and people are sent one day at a time to a different places, something like this. In terms of directing for the managers, the emphasis is on making and following plans, managing and info distribution of detailed information in a monochronic culture. In a polychronic culture, the emphasis is on being flexible, reacting according to change of circumstances. Monday morning arrives, the phone rings, the boss in London has some priorities, we change everything. So it has nothing to do with what has been planned, something like this. I'm not going to spend much time on something like this. I want you to understand these definitions that we work with that permit us to see monochronic, polychronic. Now, time orientation, I talked to you about living with the past very present or looking at the future. Again, planning, the emphasis is on continuing traditions and building a long-term frame if the plan is for a process change. In future orientation kind of culture, society, the emphasis is on longer-term plan and long-term results. So I work in some certain different countries with organization. They have a yearly plan installed because they were told by a boss with a future orientation education abroad to do so. But locally, in terms of the organization in place, I'm thinking a recent project in Senegal, everything is on what to do today. But because of the way we used to do things, there should not be some changes. An example, we arrived in this organization in Dakar. It's the time of regional elections. We are working with the local trade promotion organization. It's a program that is organized and supported by the Islamic Development Bank, the Trade Facilitation Office of Canada. And I'm there to run a group of people that we're going to train, coach, and make them local trainers. It's a trainer-trainer program. We have a tight schedule because of a tight budget. All the time frame and organization has been done by a northern organization, being Ottawa, Canada. And locally, when we arrive there, normally Monday morning, we have a meeting with the upper management of the local TPO. Morning, that's a 9 o'clock kind of thing. So I do arrive a bit early. I'm not American. I arrive at 8:40, something like this. We get to the conference room. There's no water. There's no coffee. This is strange. Normally, Senegal is a very welcoming country. It permits me to, it's a first sign that there's something. Now comes 9 o'clock, nobody shows up. Now I'm North American, you know, 9 o'clock meeting should start at 9 o'clock. Where's everybody? So being in Western Africa, I wait a little bit, 9:20. Then I go and I look for anybody responsible. And I ask, where is the Director General and the Assistant Director General? They're not here. They're not in Dakar. They're not in the city. They're not there because they're pursuing their election kind of thing. 10:30, 10:45 arrived the assistant to the Director General. And he welcomes warmly. And the first thing I tell him, rudely, How about a cup of coffee and a glass of water? Now I'm rude on purpose, okay? And I understand the tradition thing. I've been pushed a little bit beyond an acceptable limit. I try to be as smooth as polite as possible, but I would not let anybody step on my toes still. But it has to do with planning and time constraint. I mentioned a few times in this example, I'm North American. 9 o'clock meeting is 9 o'clock. You know, you're in Germany, you're there 8:45. Everybody is. You're here in class. All of you are in class at the set time, 2 o'clock. Very good. I do the same type of class in Mexico. People arrive at 2:45, 3, something like this. And it creates chaos in the planning, right? I'm back on planning here and time orientation all the time with this story, right? So our understanding here, being different, will modify the managing of my planning depending on the people I'm with. Now, I knew from the beginning, before I even get there, that my meeting would not start at 9. Now, I did not foresee that the Director General would not be there. He was supposed to be there. We talked just before I board the plane. I see you Monday, 9 o'clock, my pleasure, good friend. We've met in Montreal, we've met in Dakar, we know each other for years. It shouldn't be complicated, but he's not there. So there's problem with the organization, there's problem with staffing, there's a misunderstanding, maybe on my part, maybe on their part, or as a manager, this is the important part. The more I understand these context, the more I will be able to foresee what's coming up and not being offensive like I was in Spain when I was 23 or 4 or 24. Okay, quickly, I want to go on power. I did power, hierarchy, equality. The power value interrogation is to do with the extent on which less powerful members of society expect and accept the power is distributed inequally. And we'll see in the video today, for example, there will be a referral to this by Trump and others. He will say in the United States, it's like this, in France, it's like that. In the Netherlands, we relate to the police in a different matter for whatever reason. Relationship with hierarchy is an important part of this. We'll see today, we'll start seeing today, that the pyramid kind of thing, right? The boss being on top here. And let me get out of the way. The boss being on top here. An example I see in North Africa, all right? The boss of the organization is the one who makes decision, not the managers, not the directors. So everything has to go back to the top. So every time there's a decision to be made, well, the group, let's say we're a team and we're faced with a challenge of taking door A or door B. Now, we've looked at both aspects of each side. Personally, I would prefer door A. So is half of my team, and the other half of my team would go for door B. So we refer to our manager, who refer to his director, who will refer to the CEO, who's away, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So no decision is taken, do something else in the meantime. So that's top progressions. This could be a very paternalistic, like a fatherly kind of thing, right? Planning is displayed in which manager makes decision without consulting employees. It comes from the top, right? And they tell you, they give you orders. This is what I want you to do. In a more equality type of setting, employee may implement the plan in the way they believe is the most appropriate without referring all the way to the top every time they make minor decision. The color of the ink in the pen doesn't have to be approved by a CEO. I'm saying this, and I've seen an organization where they would they would ask the CEO, they would propose to him 3 suppliers for the paper, and he has to decide. I mean, he has something else to do than this, right? But it's inground in them. Nobody would make a decision. So that affects the organization, the staffing, the directing, the controlling. Competitiveness. Competitive management may well encourage competition in an organization, within the organization, particularly where the environment is that of a free market. It encourages employees to take responsibility for their organization's survival and can be crucial in stimulating innovation and developing markets. Now, in many places, there's no questions of innovation and developing further. There's a question of a statu quo, right? So in a question of statu quo, there's not necessarily such a strong competition. Some people will do their best to get on top, and many people will be happy with the paternalistic approach and do whatever they're told to do. They don't make decisions. In a more cooperative environment, it will be the whole team working together, thinking, making decisions in order to grow the whole team, something like this. So cooperating, and we'll see that as we go along when we'll talk about not only management, but in conflict resolution. We'll see how important that is to master this competitiveness and cooperative point of views in different culture. If we want to use a cooperative approach in a competitive culture, it's a little bit of hard work. It's not impossible to move one aspect from one quarter to the other. Now we'll understand, and we'll see some graphs a little bit further on, that the quarters are not something that is immovable. It moves, it changes all the time. Okay? So it gives you an idea. I hope you've read it. If you haven't, it would be enlightening to read this, and it would be helpful for the case study that you're going to have to do. And the homework for the next 7 days will be based on something like this. You'll see how powerful it is to understand this. Now I'm going to jump to the PowerPoint that you had. See, I don't read the whole book for you. Normally you've read this. I could go on and go from one graph to the other and explain it all to you, but I told you this is not what I do. You have a responsibility to read. Let me get out of this. Get out. Yes. PowerPoint. And this, what we're trying to discover here is that over the years, since the 60s, 1960s, that is, professors started to try to modelize culture. It's a hard task to do because there are so many variables in it. You know, when you're working on a chemical formula, if you had a little bit of this and that, like if you're a pastry chef also, something like this, you put too much salt, it won't come out. If you put too much acid base component, it will destroy the formula, whatever it is. You know, normally a model could somehow be stable. A mathematical model could be something like this. But in terms of culture, because there are so many variables, so many ways our head is set up from the culture that we originate, from the culture we're moving to, from the business culture we're moving in, from the information we get on a daily basis and that we absorb, and it modifies this cultural model that we have, okay? So a few of these professors try to modelize these type of things, and he came up with interesting findings. Let's have a look at this, and let's have a look at what they have in mind in terms of modeling. So, like I said, model is different to